Hello, my name is Guy Pigden. I am the writer-director of I Survived a Zombie Holocaust and the writer-director and actor of Older.
And I'm Harley Neville. I am the lead actor in I Survived a Zombie Holocaust, and I produced Older. And together we call ourselves Pigville Productions.
Hello, Guy and Harley. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Thank you very much for making time just before you guys flying back to New Zealand for this interview.
Our pleasure.
Thank you. And well, this is a series Unstoppable Creators, which is about unstoppable artists who, go and fight for it and do whatever it takes to make big things happen. And you guys have been making so much happen. Guys, congratulations. You just won the Independent Spirit Awards last night at Another Horror. And before that, you screened at Fright Fest, Scream Fest, Sitges, Molin's Terror Fest, and Day of Undead, and now you're up to your second feature film. Amazing, well done. How do you do it?
Well, I mean, we've been working together since we were 16. We sort of started off buying our own camera and our own camera gear and sort of just started making our own short films and teaching ourselves, basically. And so, we started, very small scale with sort of these low budget films, and slowly we've built up our team and our skills and sort of progressed to making feature films. But we started off making short films and sketches for the internet, and that's really where we sort of started off.
Yeah, basically we learned something new with every production. So neither of us studied really, didn't go to film school or anything like that. But every production we did, we kind of learned something new and picked up a new skill and made a new connection and that type of thing. And basically as a result, every production just got a little bit better. They started off really bad, but over the course of all these different productions, we've sort of got to a stage that we're starting to feel pretty happy with our productions now.
And I think, for us, the idea was always to try and do everything ourselves. So to remove as many barriers as we could by learning as much as we could and understanding as much as we could about the process from, initially screenwriting to to production to post-production, and that was sort of our approach, is that we would try and learn everything and then be able to do anything so that there wouldn't be any barriers to us telling our stories.
Yeah, because quite often as well, when we ran into problems throughout the years, was not so much with what we had to do with the productions, it was when we had to rely on someone else's abilities as well. And if you've got no money and you're expecting people to work for free, quite often that would lead to big delays, that type of thing. So it was good to be able to sort of upskill and learn a bit of everything and do a lot of that stuff ourselves. Particularly Guy. Guy knows
I know exactly
stuff.
how it goes, and thank you for sharing this so openly and honestly, because that's one of the problems that I see a lot of people going through. Drives you.
Well, I mean, for me personally, I just I've always wanted to be a storyteller, and I've always, ever since I was a little kid, I used to write stories, and I used to sort of just do that in my spare time. And I think that when my dad introduced me to filmmaking, or movies, I just fell in love with that idea that you could tell these stories but visually, so you didn't have to sit down and read a book. You could show people almost what you were trying to imagine. And I think for me, I want to see people enjoy these stories that we've come up with, and basically see people react to them. And I think that just comes from the idea that we all have stories to tell, and so to get to sit down in a theatre and watch all these people see your story is incredibly gratifying and exciting.
Yeah, and for me, what really inspires me is I enjoy sort of having an idea in my head, seeing it on paper and then seeing it come to life, and sort of that whole process, and seeing something that I've thought of, in action, that really kind of excites me. And then also, I've always been a bit of a performer as well, and so I've always enjoyed that side of things. That's just. I like the idea of being immortalised on film, basically, and being able to, show my grandkids or my great-grandkids, or, long after I'm dead, a lot of these films will hopefully still be sort of viewable somewhere.
Yeah, and I think each film is a little window into your life at that time, whether or not it's a zombie film or a romantic comedy, but there's just a little snippet of your life and what you were doing, what you were thinking about, what was inspiring you at that time, and that's what these films are.
Next question, which you kind of mentioned before, but just to get in more details, how do you finance it? How are you been financing on these productions?
Right, well, so the first feature that we shot was funded by the New Zealand Film Commission.
Yes.
They gave us $250,000 to make our first movie as part of what was known as the Escalator Initiative, which was to give money to sort of up-and-coming filmmakers who hadn't directed anything a chance to do a film. And so that's how we funded our first film.
Yes.
Second film, you can...
The second film, we sort of came up with this idea, or Guy came up with this idea, like let's try and shoot a film for sort of around $5,000, and we'll raise the money online. So we used a website, Indiegogo, and we launched a campaign, and we raised that $5,000, which we asked for $25,000. That's what we said we were aiming for,
Yeah.
but we secretly budgeted for $5,000, and then we got the $5,000. So it was good. We had enough to get our film done.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. We used crowdsourcing and raised the $5,000 from the kindness of strangers. So if any of you guys are watching, thank you so much. So yeah, that was how we did the second one.
And we also put in some of our own money.
Yeah, of course.
We sort of we had raised I think $2,000 through our internet YouTube channel, just through paid advertisements and stuff like that. So that also made up some of the budget.
We're YouTube partners, so we earn sort of not too much, but maybe like $30 a month, and that had been building up.
Everything adds up.
Yeah, exactly, and that had been
Yes.
building up for years, and so we had 2 Gs there, so we used that as well.
And what have been the biggest challenges so far, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I mean, certainly for the zombie film, it was the post-production process, and just sort of learning about all the things that were required to deliver a film to a high enough standard that it could be released both at festivals, given to distributors and sales agents, and a lot of those things you don't think about when you're making the film. You're just trying to make your days and sort of reach that end of your shoot, and you don't really think, okay, well, how am I going to transfer this footage? How is it going to be labeled? How am I going to incorporate the visual effects and the sound design? And how am I going to output that in all the different formats that are required for an international release?
Someone has to do all that stuff.
Yeah. And so that was a big learning process for us, and I think that understanding that pipeline and that workflow was an incredible challenge, and also just fundamentally the budgets that we're working on. When you're making a film, a lot of the ways that you solve problems is to throw money at it, and we just do not have that luxury. So when a problem arises, we have to think very creatively about how we're going to navigate that issue and what we can do. And I think that the challenges for us were in post, and also just the budget itself, because we're trying to do so much for so little.
And for me personally, this is more of a general sort of filmmaking thing. Is something I had to get used to was the time it takes for, you shoot something and you kind of think, great, we've shot it now and it's going to be out soon, and then of course that's not the case. It takes a long time, for post-production. The whole process is very slow, and it took a long time for me to come to terms with this idea that we shoot something, but it's not actually going to be publicly available for a long time, probably, or several months if it's a small thing. So that was something that took a lot of getting used to for me, was just the timescales involved, basically.
And films that inspire you?
I'll let you go first, my good man.
You go first in that one.
Okay, well, films that inspire me, it's very hard to sort of narrow it down, because I'm just a film lover, and so I really enjoy a lot of different genres and directors. I think Peter Jackson is a big inspiration, for every New Zealander, but certainly in terms of, just what he's done is just phenomenal. I think George Lucas as well. Star Wars is one of my favourite films, and one of the films that sort of sparked my imagination. And then I would also say Stanley Kubrick is one of my all-time favourite directors, and I think one of my favourite films of all time is The Shining. And I would also say, I'm very much inspired by sort of films from the 1980s, Steven Spielberg, Indiana Jones, Ghostbusters, and another all-time favorite for me is Back to the Future. So for me, I love a lot of films, and the films that I watch over and over again are those touchstones that I sort of see something new in. And I would also say John Hughes and John Carpenter and their films, you know, sort of The Fog, The Thing, Breakfast Club, that sort of stuff is stuff that really inspires me.
Yeah, and me personally, I'm a bit strange. I'm a bit strange actually, because I don't really get too inspired by that many films. I don't watch that many films. I'm more inspired by sort of the whole process of filmmaking and just seeing something come alive. So yeah, I don't actually watch a huge amount of films. You know, obviously I watch some, but yeah, I'm not hugely inspired by films or even other directors. Really, I just enjoy the whole process. That's why
great.
I do it. Yeah,
That's quite
you know,
different.
so it's a bit
He's
strange.
inspired by nothing.
I'm inspired by creating.
It's a great spirit, as long as you keep creating and
Exactly.
entertaining us like you've been doing, you know. And please, words of inspiration for everybody watching this interview.
Well, just you know, I mean, if you're filmmaking, just keep doing it, keep going. It takes longer than you think, but you know, everything you do is one more step along the way, and you know, you might not notice it at the time, but eventually when you look back, you'll realize that, you know, those incremental advances have actually got you to where you are now. You're actually progressing the whole time as long as you keep making things. So that's the trick, just keep on making things.
Yeah, and I think just don't give up. Don't give up on making the best film that you can, because at every stage of the process there will be something that is an obstacle that kind of blocks you, and you think that the quality is going to diminish, or you know, it's going to be very difficult to overcome this hurdle. And I think at all of those times it's very easy to go, well, I'll settle for this, I'll settle for that. And I think what you have to do is push through and go, I will not settle for that. I will continue to just keep going and keep being inspired to do the very best I can, because you know, filmmaking is very difficult, and I think that, you know, if you're not careful, those standards can slide, and that's how your film gets compromised. And I think that you really have to just keep striving to be the very best you can be, and have that pursuit of trying to make an excellent film at all times.
I am inspired. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Right, so for I Survived a Zombie Holocaust, we're still thinking that we may do, you know, a bit more of a festival run, so it should be probably watchable in several more festivals. We are currently speaking with several distributors, and we also have an international sales agent, Shoreline, who are sort of working on selling the film everywhere, and so we will hopefully have some more sort of news about that, but we're looking at sort of releases in early 2015. Around that time for the zombie film. Older is sort of still in post-production, so we're not sure when it'll be ready, but hopefully sort of towards the middle of next year, middle of 2015, we'll be sort of submitting that to our festivals and progressing with that.
Yeah. And there are trailers online for both of them. If you search Pigville on YouTube, you'll find both there. And we've got a new trailer coming out very soon for I Survived a Zombie Holocaust as well.
Fantastic, can't wait to see it.
Thank you so much for your time, and for everyone watching, you know, please go and check out our Facebook, www.facebook.com/isazh, or www.oldermovie.com. That's where you can see some of the stuff that we've been talking about. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.